It's the end of 2017, and first of all, I'd like to thank everybody that subscribed and all the viewers. I honestly didn't think there would be this many. I started this channel about mid-January of 2017, and right now I'm sitting at like 3,300 subs, and I honestly never could have imagined it would be that many for this channel. So, thank you all for watching, and thank everyone for subscribing. So for the last video of 2017, I'm going with a Q&A, and I'll cover most of the topics that are the most frequently asked. So let's start. What brand of dye do you use? I use Procion dye from Dharma Trading. Several other places sell the same type of dye. I know Custom Colors does, and there's a list, and I'll try to put it down there. As long as it's a Procion dye, it should bond well with the fibers and you should have good results. Does the shape of ice change the design? Yes, it can, if you're putting the dye on top of the ice. If you're putting the dye on the fabric itself and then putting the ice on top, it has little to no effect as far as the shape. If you're putting the dye on top of the ice, then it does have an effect. If you're going with the crushed ice, you won't have any hot spots of concentrated color because of the way it's melting. If you're going with the boat-shaped ice out of the refrigerator, you could have hot spots where it contacts the fabric itself, and so you'll have a brighter spot or a darker spot with the dye in that spot compared to others. The portable ice machines that make the cup-shaped ice with a hole in it, if you do it with the hole up when you're placing the ice and then put the dye on top of that, again you'll have little hot spots of circles all over your design. Not as distinct as I'm making it out to be, but it does look different compared to the crushed ice. Here's somebody asking about the cardboard that I place around the shirts. If you don't have a good source of cardboard, you can go with any number of things. Thin sheets of plastic, in this case the person you cut down those thin cutting boards. You can also just use aluminum foil. It works really well, it bends into the shapes that you need, and I might be switching to that instead of the cardboard in the coming year, simply because it's faster. Do you have a Facebook or Twitter account? Yes. Facebook is Casual Collisions, and Twitter is It's C2 4U, and that'll be right there. How do you thicken the dye? What is guar gum, and why do you thicken the dye? All of those questions come up. Guar gum is what I use. I have it readily available in the kitchen, so I grab that. There are other options as far as a thickening agent that you can use. Why do you use a thickening agent? Well, it's to make the dye thicker. If the dye is thicker, it does not spread as much into the fabric. So you can actually do an entire design front and back, and then you can take black thickened dye, run it all over the back of the design. The only place where that black dye will actually bond is where it is touching. It doesn't absorb through, and it works really well for doing special types of effects or keeping tight control of where the dye goes. Can you use a poly blend? No, you can't. Okay, that's not really true. You can. I recommend 100% cotton because the Procion dyes bond to natural fibers. If you want to use a poly blend, you're welcome to try. A 90-10 cotton poly blend should do okay. You might start seeing pastel colors instead of nice vibrant colors at that point. Anything below that I would not do. I've tried a 60-40 and a 50-50, and you end up with something that does not look good. It just does not bond to the poly material. How long does it actually take to create these? Well, without the magic of the video, it takes anywhere from a few minutes to maybe 30 minutes to actually do the tie. The dyeing usually only takes, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes to dye a side. You wait until the ice melts if you're doing the ice dyeing, and that could take a while in the winter. After everything is dyed front and back, 18 to 24 hours, 12 to 18 hours, it kind of depends on my mood and the weather, to let it sit, wash out, It takes a few minutes, and run it through the washing machine a couple of times. All said and done, you would be looking at probably about 2 days or so, start to finish, to do it properly. You can rush it, you can heat it, you can do a lot of things to make it go faster, but most of my batches are about 2 days. Cold or warm water rinse. Cold to get all the unbonded dye out, and then I switch to hot water, 110 to 120 degrees, to help set the colors. Then after that, in the washing machine, I run a hot cycle with an extra rinse, and usually one will work for me. If it was a lot of dye and I'm not sure if I got all the unbonded dye out, I'll do a second cycle, and then I dry it and I run it through the washing machine like I normally would with all the other clothes, and I've never had an issue with bleeding. That's not to say that you wouldn't have an issue with bleeding of the colors. So I'd recommend you check it. After you wash it a couple of times in the washing machine, go back, put it in to some water, and wring it out and see if any color comes out. If it does, you need to wash it again. You don't want to ruin your other clothes. What are the clamps that you use? They're hemostats. In this case, I normally use 8-inch curved hemostats. You don't need to be a surgeon or a doctor to pick these up. You can find them readily on Amazon, eBay, medical supply houses, any number of places. I recommend you get stainless steel, real stainless steel, quality stainless steel. If it's not truly stainless steel, there's a chance that it will rust and stain your fabric. Where do I get the sinew? I buy it in 800-foot rolls from Amazon. 800-foot roll of artificial black sinew that's been waxed runs about $12, and this lasts quite a while. What is soda ash? Soda ash is sodium carbonate, which is this. This is the easiest thing that you can find it in. It's a, 3.5 pound box. You can pick it up at Walmart, Target, most dollar stores. I think I've seen it at H-E-B. You can find it in most places. It's in the laundry department. It's like $3. I had a few people that are adamant that the dye only goes on top of the ice. Well, it can go anywhere you want to put it. Why do I put it underneath? Because I have better control of where the dye goes. Most of my designs are more of a precise nature, not just an organic flowing, where the dye goes, it goes kind of thing. So for those, I put the dye directly on the shirt and put the ice on top. It keeps the dye where it's supposed to be, mostly, and it works out better for me. For some designs, I do put the dye on top of the ice if I'm looking for more of an organic spread, less control, random, whatever happens will happen kind of design. Do I have an Etsy store? Yes. Dye for it. It's listed right down there. If you don't have hemostats, can you use something else? Yes. Especially working with a larger design like a bedspread size, or if you're trying to do a large tapestry, you can't really find hemostats large enough. You can get up to about 22 inches and it's still not large enough for large designs. So what you can go with is either cutting out some plywood in the shape that you want and using C-clamps. For smaller designs, you can go with coat hangers. If you look at the corners, they have a nice curve to them. Cut those off, either the larger plastic ones or the smaller metal, and then use small C-clamps to keep that in place on your fabric. If you tie-dye a shirt and it comes out pale and faded, a couple of things could be wrong. If you use the tulip dyes or any of the tie-dye in a kit, those usually contain soda ash with the dye, so when you mix it up, the soda ash is already in the dye. As soon as you mix it up, it starts aging, and you have maybe an hour or two at the most to have that dye bond with your fabric before it's exhausted and it will no longer bond. That's why I use the Procion dyes in the powdered form. I can mix it up. I use soda ash on the fabric itself so that I'm not causing my dyes to age prematurely, and it comes out with much more vibrant colors. Normally also with the tie-dye in a kits, most people don't wait long enough. They do the dye and then they want to wash it out. You really need to wait 18 to 24 hours from the time that you first put the dye on. Even longer is fine. You can wait 3 or 4 days. As long as that fabric stays wet, you don't have a problem. If it's not staying wet because you live in Arizona, for instance, then go ahead and bag it up or drape some plastic across the top to keep it moist. Ice dyeing allows the component colors of the dye to split into the component colors instead of just a solid color. For instance, with black, it's not a single dye color, it's a mixture of many different colors. Of the 20 or 22 colors that are the foundation for all the Procion dyes. So if you use black on a design with an ice design, the black will begin to actually split out into the component colors. So you'll have small little streak of yellow, small streak of blue, small streak of some various colors of green. And that's the type of look that I like in the designs. If you don't like that type of look, then you just go with liquid dyes. Since the black is already mixed with water in a liquid dye, well, when you use it, it won't separate into the component colors. It will bleed with the other colors, like if you use a yellow liquid and a blue liquid, it will bleed and form green in between, but it won't separate out further into those base component colors. A lot of people think that I use a lot of dye, like an excessive amount of dye in my designs. I do. I like the look. Using a smaller amount of powdered dye doesn't work for me because I end up with small white patches in various places. The only place that I really like the white to be is specifically where I've tied a shirt. Otherwise, I don't really like white in designs unless I go for those rare types where I'm trying to do just a swath of color and then white for the rest of the design. And I do throw a few of those out there. Do I still use an excessive amount? Yes. Could I use less? Probably, but I don't want to do the design again. So if I use enough dye where I feel comfortable, then it's good. I buy most of the dye in 1-pound containers, and that lasts me quite a while. I don't feel too bad wasting it with my excessive dye usage. Do what works best for you. If you like the heavily saturated colors, then I'd recommend over-applying the dye and dyeing on both sides, not just one side, so that you're sure that you're getting as much vibrance as you can, and color depth with a slightly different color on the back of the design. Well, that's all that I have. So again, I'd like to thank you for being a viewer for this year and for subscribing, and I welcome more subscribers and more viewers for 2018, and I have a lot of new designs coming up for next year. So thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful 2018.